the ideal thing that you tell yourself is that you want to change something in society through your work, but really like your work is being displayed to people who don't really need the change that you're trying to make as much as other people would need that. So how can you, even if you post it on Facebook, on Twitter, or whatever, even me as an artist, I've seen a lot of work on internet, but when I went to actual exhibition, it was a completely different experience. So I don't think you can really like have the same experience really, because like on Facebook you just go through pictures. But how can we as artists like, find that balance in our work where we can actually affect?
It is a very big struggle to actually produce an artwork and keep the idea out of your head that I'm producing it for somebody else. It has to be so honest and come from your own experience. And your eye and your judgment are the final judges of I like this artwork or I don't, and it goes into the garbage. If you allow anybody else to get involved in this process, you're not producing something that's coming out of you. It becomes a little bit of what's expected from the elite audience that views the artwork, and what is expected from the street man on the street. This should never get involved in your artistic process. You produce something that's purely you are satisfied with it, and then you put it out. Maybe nobody sees it, maybe 100,000 people see it. You never know, but as long as you are satisfied with the statements you're making and you're confident, then it's good art, and it will move, and it will reach everybody. But if you're thinking about, oh, this person, then it will die somewhere. And you will not, eventually you'll look back at your art and say, why did I do that? And that's the worst thing an artist can experience, in that regret producing an artwork. And that could be a disaster. And that's the struggle. I think the most difficult struggle is because you are the harshest critic of yourself. And if you can come through it and produce an artwork, you're okay. Ignore everything.
Do you think you should make art because I don't know, I can't find, honestly, and I'm a very young artist, but I still can't find that point where I'm talking about myself or about my life through my work. It's mostly research, results. Or
how old are you?
I'm 19.
See, but this is good. You're going.
I have a lot of issues that I can talk about through my work.
Talk about
eventually I live in
research,
society, but I can't find that point. So like that's my.
You will reach it. Don't be worried. You will reach it. Really, you're on the right path. You have to research. You have to think. You have to question. You have to write, draw, photograph, attend shows, talk to artists. You'll reach it. It's not. If it's in your path, I don't know. If it's meant for you to take this path, you'll reach it. If not, then maybe you'll wind up in the back.
عندي سؤالين. السؤال الأول، حضرتك أول سولو شو ليكي كان بيتكلم عن الانتماء وقضية وجودية زي كذا، كانت حساسة. فcould you please elaborate؟ هذا أول حاجة. ثاني حاجة، دائما لما نكتب الارتكلز هذه تتكلم عن مواضيع جدا حساسة، يا اما نتمنع من الكتابة يا اما نروح السجن. ولكن في الفن تطرقنا لمواضيع جدا حساسة والى الان ما حد داري ايش بيصير. فهل تعتقدي انه المجتمع عندنا ما عنده الاندرستاندينج او الماتيوريتي ان اندرستاندينج ذات كايند اوف ارتكلز؟
ابغى اجاوب السؤال الثاني اول. ابغى اجاوب السؤال. انا I really صدق عندك very good point. I always mention it, in that the written word is so much stronger than visual in our society. Although I think the visual مجردة من language, everybody can relate to it and read it and understand it. يعني how many people read a newspaper? Really, you think a lot, but not a lot. يعني the age groups that are exposed to it, illiterate and literate. في an argument about how many people have access to reading, which makes it يعني intellectual level form of communication. But at the intellectual level, it means that dialogue is going to be much stronger and much more aggressive. This is my theory about written word. I think also in the Arabic culture, right now, journalism is taking a new turn, especially in Saudi. الناس تقرا يعني they're not like جودة الميديا يخربطوا الكلام. No, really, people want to read what the journalists say, and I think this is a big responsibility on people who are documenting what's happening today by the written. The visual and art is also sort of still elite. How many people can come into a gallery and look at an artwork? So I try to always think about this. يعني ما لكن يعني أحس إنه when people come and look at an artwork, they don't feel the message or the concept all the way. They look at it as visual, very لاحظ and walk away. And it's up to galleries and writers and artists to educate the general public and make art more accessible. In Jeddah, you're very lucky because you have the art parks in Al Corniche. So for 20 years, you've been exposed to sculptures and public art, and it exists as part of your, I think, part of the culture in Jeddah. It came because it's a multicultural city. So how do we move art from being super intellectual level, only the very few get to interact with it and understand it, to the general public? My attempts at it are, first of all, I ask newspapers always to print my images, my art, so I don't have this whole copyright problem. I don't want anybody to see it. I have it online, on Facebook, on anything you want. If you want to look at my art, you can find it everywhere. So it's accessible. Number two, I started participatory art projects, and this is where you bring in the public, and they work on the artwork with you. And they don't even know, they don't get the concept that this is a contemporary art piece. Some of them have never seen a contemporary art piece. And I go through, actually, most of my, the 2 participatory sessions that I did in Saudi, I put across that. When I talk about the artwork, actually I open the session with a little educational presentation about Saudi art. أعرفهم على الفنانين السعوديين هذا أحمد ماطر هذا عبد الناصر, and that way you spread the culture up. Hey, there's something happening. Maybe I should look it up. But that's what I mean. Not to go any longer on this issue. What was your first question?
السؤال الأول إنه موضوع البيلونجينج هذا موضوع جدا حساس.
أيوه.
أعتقد كل أحد يعاني.
طبعا.
حضرتك you're a woman in a patriarchal society.
أيوه.
You're a human lived all your life in a compound. أيوه. فقفص.
أيوه.
فجيتي طلعتي برا يعني في عالم ثاني. it's just interesting إنه أول سولو بدأتي كان بيتكلم عن belonging.
هو
If you could elaborate.
أيوه. The title, A Journey of Belonging, is not something that is titling just this show. It literally means that I've had a journey exploring the idea of belonging.
Talking about how young artists should not give up if a certain gallery is not accepted, they should do their own exhibition and so on. What are your expectations from young local artists, up and...
Well, the optimistic answer is they're going to change Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
All
of Saudi Arabia,
yes.
just the arts?
Yes. The creative young generation is going to change Saudi Arabia. That's for sure. And what I see happening here in Jeddah, where it's more obvious than the rest of the kingdom, there is something bubbling under the surface. And this is the time, I repeat it, this is the time for young artists in Saudi Arabia. You have to work hard, you have to dedicate yourselves. And the hard steps that were taken by the generation before you has opened a door that actually knocked down.
Because creating a hub for creatives or a collaborative workspace for them, do you think Saudi Arabia is ready for something like that?
A collaborative workspace? What do you mean,
For
like an
example,
art center?
You can say that, but let's say...
But they exist already.
They do exist, but how much are they really, impacting the art scene? Do Do you feel like there's more that needs to be
I
done?
can't measure that, but the more spaces that allow people to think creatively, the better, regardless. They're good, they're bad, they're run down, they're humongous and sexy, or for me, creative spaces are very important for not just artists. It have to be a commercial gallery, structured, and has it gone to auctions and that whole industry. You don't need that. Creativity in a society is like air. It's the most interesting in the whole region because nobody's encouraging it. It's happening organically. Artists are, here I am. I want to do what I want to do. Look at UAE. The government is pouring money into creating artists. They've built the universities and art schools. They've put the museums and brought the galleries, the art shows, the biennales, and their artists are lazy. Really, and you would think out of this kind of push, they have amazing artists, of course. I'm not saying all of them are awful, but they have a collection of pioneers of art and a few shining stars. But you would think with this kind of push, they would have thousands of Emirati artists showing in the most amazing museums. It means nothing, this push and shove. I think if society produces organically its creative people, is the most healthy. And I think what's happening in Saudi, although everybody thinks it's, all key, they're oppressed, the challenges, in reality I think this is the best atmosphere. It's like the incubator of creativity. That is interesting, not dull. A friend of mine told me that a member of their family, a young woman, who studied, I think, finance or something in finance. And she is an avid photographer, and she really wants to go into arts. And she's thinking about doing her master's. Have a talk with her, inspire her or something. And she came to me and she said, I want to be an artist, and I think I'm going to study art. I said, don't study art. In our region, I don't know if you can support yourself. Because she was telling me, I want to be independent. I don't want to take money from my father. I'm now paying my own rent. I work for a bank and I hate my life. And I like having my own flat. She was living in Dubai at the time. And I love paying for my car. And if you want this lifestyle to continue, as an artist, you will not be able to sustain it. Especially as a startup artist. She hasn't started yet. I worked for 10 years, had a ton of savings, and a lot of support. The gallery represented me since 2005, so I became a full-time artist in 2010. So I maintained work to support my lifestyle. This is the bad thing about here in the region. It's not a completely perfect market for artists to thrive and live, and there aren't means. Different ways, grants, for example. I want a grant to produce one artwork. I have to pull from my own money to pay for artwork. Whereas in the West, you send a letter to a foundation and they give you a grant of $3,000. At the small artist, $500. There's this kind of system that exists that doesn't exist here. So that makes it very hard for somebody to be a full-time artist. That said, creativity will happen regardless of what the parents say or do. So if she wants to be creative,
Whatever they want to do,
they will do it.
If there's a sphere of what kind of life.
Continue to have a sphere and continue to push them to actually find a way to have a very good education and a way to be financially independent. These two elements are the protection of women, I think, in art. There is bad art all over the world. So it exists. If somebody wants to draw something and their mother says it's beautiful, who are you to say stop painting? Let them paint until their heart explodes. But you can't judge anything like that. For me, if people are painting and it's making their life better, let them do it. As bad as this production can be, you can't filter things like that. No. And the ways of expression.
Or giving them some kind of help to get better. That's not.
That's my theory. I think, okay, fine, having institutions, having a proper degree in art is also very supportive because it gives you structure and understand how you can do research. But I really believe that art is something.
gift from God. And if you're meant to be this profession, you are going to be, and you're going to be an artist. Even if you have 10 degrees from the best art schools in the world, if you do not have creativity,
such a cut.
then you're not going to be an artist.
يعني ممكن أنا من